And for more now on the summit, let us cross live to our reporter covering the summit, Nthkoana Ngatane. Nthkoana, good afternoon to you. Thank you so much indeed for joining us. And as I said on my introduction, that the speakers say the message is one, and it is just to tell the world that Africa is open for business.
That's right, Balisa. The question that's being asked here time and time again is this not just another talk shop? And of course, from the president of the bank, Dr. Adesina, to the other presidents of banks, including the Africa Import and Export Bank, that's Afrexim Bank, to the Development Bank of Southern Africa, to the Trade and Finance or Trade and Development Bank, all these presidents and the people that are taking the stand to talk about what we are here for, they keep reiterating that this is a deal-making forum. This is where we are going to see deals being closed to ensure that Africa takes its spot as the leading continent in the world that we live in. But of course, Palesa, one of the challenges that still remain on the continent is the issue of governance. It is the issue of ensuring, like in countries like South Africa, where we have seen things like state capture. And of course, the CEO of the Development Bank of Southern Africa, when we spoke to him earlier, and he said to us that they would be going in the space of ensuring that that crisis of water in Limpopo is resolved. But he turned back and said, but those who were responsible for the corruption that brought about that crisis should be dealt with. But Palisa, let me talk to one of the people who is attending at this conference. He comes from one of the most widely published online platforms, and that is All Africa. And he has seen many of these things, I'm sure, because he's based out in Washington, but the publication covers the whole of the continent. That's why it's called All Africa. And that is Kramer. What is your impression? You have attended many of these things. What's your impression of this one?
Well, as you said, there's a real determination not to make this just another talk shop. All the people that we've heard so far have emphasized the transactional nature of what's going on here, and it seems to be happening. The president of the Trade and Development Bank that you mentioned talked about the commitment to the 3 S's: speed up and synergize and scale up. So the atmosphere here, the attitude is very strong, and there's never been quite this kind of gathering that I've observed with this much money represented in one place, all focused on what can be done to grow Africa faster.
Now, what issues have made headlines for you? As I said, you are in the media space, and of course, I'm sure as the conversations are going on, you are picking up what is going to be making headlines in your publication.
Well, what's concerning investors often are the misperceptions of this continent that have persisted for so many decades, and that often gets in the way of investment. And a bad story from one part of the continent can discourage investment in another part, totally unrelated. An Ebola outbreak in West Africa or Central Africa can scare people from doing business in Southern Africa. So part of what the job of media, whether it's SABC or All Africa, is to provide the information, the real information, because there are problems everywhere, but there are many positive things happening. There are many initiatives taking place at the government level and at the grassroots level by people trying to change things, to make things better, and to open opportunities for business. And that's why people came to this conference, to find opportunities to do deals and make investments, make money, but also make a difference.
But of course, talking about the role of the media, one of the biggest challenges is still that there is still a huge gap between events like this, where you have presidents of banks coming together and the people on the ground who are actually supposed to benefit from whatever deals that are made. How do we bridge that gap?
Well, that is a big question, and the inequality in income in Africa and across the world is a growing problem, and it's not necessarily addressed by economic growth. In so many places across Africa, for example, there is economic growth without job creation, and that leaves people behind. So there's a lot of talk here and in other circles about the importance of inclusive growth. That's the talk. Only the results will tell whether there is a change that comes. But it also stems from having good governance. Without governance, almost nothing good can happen. And that's being discussed here also.
Now, if you were to sit with these presidents and tell them which areas in particular, two top to look at, which would those be?
Well, I think they know better than me. I would listen to them. But I think the reason that they have convened this kind of meeting is because there are lots of ideas here. There are people who know Africa, who come from many parts, who can share. There are other people with money, whether they're from Africa or from abroad, who are looking for opportunities. So the dialogue that's taking place, not a talk shop, but the dialogue that hopefully leads to deals, is what underpins this whole undertaking here, I believe.
Thank you very much. Reid Kramer is from All Africa, a publication that is distributed online. And of course, information technology is one of the areas that are being addressed here, Palesa. But the other one is energy. And we understand that we can expect a major signing between the African Development Bank and Eskom that might bring some hundreds of millions, close to R1 billion into Eskom. So we're waiting for that major announcement and signing. It's one of the issues that we're waiting for. But of course, there are other areas that this forum is looking at. We're looking at infrastructure, roads and bridges. We're looking at the creative economy. And we know that on Friday there will be a fashion show and other entertainment to showcase the creative economy of the continent as part of this inaugural Africa Investment Forum here in Sandton. Palesa.
Many thanks there to our reporter Nthkoana Ngatane, reporting live from the Africa Investment Forum currently underway at the Sandton Convention Center. We'll be crossing back to Nthkoana for the update.